Okay, welcome back everybody to the Dream Whisperer of Jesus, where we discuss and interpret prophetic dreams. There's a lot of serious things happening around the world, as we know, so today I've got a interesting prophetic dream that's a little bit more light-hearted than the more serious things happening in the world. So, what have we got? We have a prophetic dream about rugby, Australian rugby. So I received this dream on 26th of September 2023. So it's quite an interesting little dream, so I'll just interpret it, and it's quite interesting. So in the dream, I saw the Australian rugby team, and just a basic drawing here, but on their heads they were wearing these little yellow caps, and they weren't adult-sized men's caps like an adult-sized men's baseball cap, but they were just little, like schoolboy or teenage-sized little yellow caps, like children or young men or young boys would wear if they're maybe at a private school. So what this showed to me is that there's childish thinking in the Australian rugby team. So if they had a man's hat or a man-sized hat, it means they're thinking like a man. But these rugby players had boys' hats, so their thinking is not like a man, it's like a boy. And as we know, the Australian rugby coach, Eddie Jones, he brought in a new coaching team, and they had sort of new ideas, and they were very tough. They axed a number of players. Most famously or infamously, they axed Michael Hooper, the Australian captain, and they basically said that Australia couldn't win the 2023 World Cup, so we're going to be really tough and macho, cut a whole group of senior players, and we're going to take this young team to the World Cup, and we're going to build for 2027. So it sounded really good on paper, but as we all know now, the plan blew up and Australia didn't even make the quarterfinals. So when the coaching staff made that decision, they probably thought that Australia will make the quarterfinals, but as we know now, it all turned to custard and Australia hasn't even made the quarterfinals. So yeah, this prophetic dream was telling me on 26th September that the Australian coaching staff, they're thinking like teenage boys or young boys about the Australian team. So, and also if we turn to the Bible, we'll bring the Bible into it, for a similar situation we can turn to 1 Kings 12. King Rehoboam, when he succeeded from Solomon, it reads, "Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the older men who had attended his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, How do you advise me to answer this people? They answered him, If you will be a servant to this people today and serve them and speak good words to them when you answer them, then they will be your servants forever. But he disregarded the advice that the older men gave him and consulted with the young men who had grown up with him and now attended him. He said to them, What do you advise that we answer this people who have said to me, Lighten the yoke that your father put on us? The young men who had grown up with him said to him, Thus you should say to this people who spoke to you, Your father made our yoke heavy, but you must lighten it for us. Thus you should say to them, My little finger is thicker than my father's loins. Now whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions." So what God was showing me was basically Eddie Jones got really bad advice from the young men, the young coaching men that he put around him, and Eddie Jones is the coach, he's the king, so he should have disregarded and rejected that advice, but he followed it, and now Australia's had its worst rugby result at the Rugby World Cup. So I hope everyone found that interesting. Every prophetic dream that comes from Jesus has a reason and a purpose, so even God can send us prophetic dreams about rugby. So if I was really bold, I could have shared this dream earlier before Australia was officially knocked out, but I didn't have quite the boldness to share it before Australia was knocked out. But now everything's safe and everything's turned into a disaster, so I can safely share the prophetic dream and the interpretation. Okay, thank you brothers and sisters in Christ for listening. God bless you. Bye bye.